Please welcome John Highbush, Executive Director of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation.
Good evening and welcome to Reagan Country. On behalf of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you here this evening. We are here tonight to celebrate the centennial of Ronald Reagan's birth, also known as a year-long 100th birthday party for the greatest president in our lifetimes. What this centennial is really all about is a celebration of a magnificent life that inspired freedom and changed the world. And I know there is one aspect President Reagan would especially like about his celebration tonight, in addition to the bands, the tributes, and the fun, and that is there is no taxpayer money and not a dime of stimulus funds involved. This event is an opportunity to remember an extraordinary man whose uniquely American life took him on an unlikely yet destined path from humble origins in the heartland of our country to the silver screen and ultimately to the White House. A man whose positive impact and influence on history will be felt for generations, and a man whose fundamental decency, goodness, and kindness never changed.
Long before President Ronald Wilson Reagan led the United States of America, he worked as an actor.
Ask them to go in there with all they've got. Win just one for the Kipper.
A spokesman.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Good evening.
And the governor of California. February 6, 2011 marks the day President Reagan would have turned 100 years old. This moment is a historic opportunity to remember the life, lessons, and legacy of America's 40th president.
We are too great a nation to limit ourselves to small dreams.
Ronald Reagan strongly believed America's best days lie ahead.
Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look.
By speaking of traditional ideals that hearken to the founding of our country, and by projecting an aura of confidence and optimism, President Reagan inspired America to regain its sense of purpose.
We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. We the people are free.
Ronald Reagan stood for timeless beliefs, freedom, liberty, and American exceptionalism, principles that must be fought for, protected, and handed down for future generations to do the same.
And children, if your parents haven't been teaching you what it means to be an American, let them know and nail them on it. That would be a very American thing to do.
President Reagan was a man of deep convictions and abiding faith. He also never failed to see the humor in life.
Well, the first thrill tonight was to find myself for the first time in a long time in a movie on prime time.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Letter came from Peter Sweeney. He's in the 2nd grade in the Riverside School in Rockville Center. And he said, I hope you get well quick, or you might have to make a speech in your pajamas.
We knew Ronald Reagan as president, governor, Dutch, the Gipper, and the great communicator.
I never thought it was my style or the words I used that made a difference. It was the content. I wasn't a great communicator, but I communicated great things, and they didn't spring full bloom from my brow. They came from the heart of a great nation, from our experience, our wisdom, and our belief in the principles that have guided us for 2 centuries.
He believed in democracy and freedom to the core of his soul.
You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man.
And he tirelessly fought tyranny, oppression, and communism to create a better world.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Above all, Ronald Reagan believed in America and in Americans. He led us to have faith in our strength and unshakable confidence in our great nation and to champion the oppressed.
As long as we remember our first principles and believe in ourselves, the future will always be ours. And something else we learned. Once you begin a great movement, there's no telling where it'll end. We meant to change a nation, and instead, we changed a world.
On the centennial anniversary of Ronald Reagan's birth, we remember most that President Reagan inspired freedom and changed the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Master of Ceremonies for tonight's concert, the Honorable Fred Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that would have been a great clip if it had a decent narrator for it, wouldn't it? But first of all, to the trustees of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, my deep gratitude for the honor that you've given me by asking me to MC tonight's tribute. Now, over the years, I have hosted a number of events, ranging from some modest gatherings, usually having something to do with barbecue in Tennessee, and to some that have had a bit more higher profile. But I assure you that none have meant as much to me as the one tonight, and that's for one simple reason. And that reason is Ronald Reagan. This centennial is an important recognition of an extraordinary force in history, a man whose steadfast belief in the right of people everywhere to live in peace and freedom. He believed in the goodness and greatness of the American people, and his optimism and courage led to changes in the world that no one else could have imagined. The resurgence of American pride and economic opportunity, as well as the expansion of democratic values to all corners of the globe. Folks, it doesn't get any more important than that. And that is the legacy of the man who would have been 100 years old tomorrow. We all know that among his many skills, Ronald Reagan was a superb entertainer. He loved the entertainment business and was proud of his time in Hollywood. And what I think is a fitting tribute, we have a terrific lineup of entertainment for you this evening, including Lone Star, Roger Williams, Ana Maria Perez de Taglia, the Beach Boys, Los Robos Master Chorale, and it wouldn't be a Reagan event without Lee Greenwood. And to get us started, we are privileged to welcome an organization that's been in existence for almost 100 years itself, 94 to be exact. This band has a long and proud history with the Reagans, having performed at events in Sacramento and Washington. In fact, they welcomed President Reagan to their campus on the occasion of his first speech after leaving the White House. Please welcome the world-famous, award-winning University of Southern California Trojan Marching Band. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for our national anthem.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome two representatives of the National Youth Leadership Committee of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Celebration, Brody Conover and Caitlin Rowan.
Good evening. Ronald Reagan always believed that America's best days lie ahead. It was very important to him that future generations be able to live in a world of peace, freedom, and economic opportunity. He famously said that freedom is one generation away from extinction, and he was right. In that spirit, the National Youth Leadership Committee was established as a way to ensure the active participation of the next generation. We come from all walks of life: athletics, entertainment, and college campuses. Between us, we have 18 Olympic medals, 11 NCAA All-American selections, 5 NCAA championships, and 2 platinum records. But much more importantly, we have in common the fact every single one of us has been inspired by President Reagan's example and share a deep and abiding commitment to continue his work. I know some people may think it's old-fashioned to have heroes, but we don't. Ours is Ronald Reagan, and we are very proud to be working to make certain that the torch of freedom, which he carried so boldly, will march on.
In his autobiography, An American Life, President Reagan wrote, "I think too many people overlook the value of a small college and the tremendous influence that participation in student activities can have during the years from adolescence to adulthood. If I had gone to one of those larger schools, I think I would have fallen back into the crowd and never discovered things about myself that I did at Eureka. My life would have been different." As a student at Eureka College, Ronald Reagan's alma mater, some days I can hardly believe that this man, this larger-than-life legend, actually walked the very same paths and studied in the very same buildings that I do every day. It is impossible to be on campus without feeling his presence, and I consider it an honor to follow in his footsteps, literally, and to be a part of this celebration. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from America's heartland, with multiple gold and platinum albums, Billboard and country chart toppers, Cody Collins, Michael Britt, Keach Rainwater, Dean Sams, and Michael Hill, better known as country music sensation Lone Star.
Thank you guys so much for having us out here tonight. We really, really appreciate it. You know, what a great event. Thank you guys for having us out here. This is such a cool party to be at. What would be 100 years for Mr. Ronald Reagan. And what a great man that guy was. You know, he's definitely known for being a great guy and being a great man, a really good president, and even an amazing husband to Mrs. Ronald Reagan. And it's definitely no secret, they had a great love life. Their life story has a lot of love in it. So we want to dedicate this song to them.
Every time our eyes meet, this feeling inside of me is almost more than I can tell. Baby, when you touch me, I can feel how much you love me, and it just blows me away. I've never been this close to anyone or anything. I can hear your thoughts, I can see your dreams. I don't know how you do what you do. So in love with you, it just keeps getting better. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you by my side, forever and ever. Every little thing that you do, baby, I'm amazed by you. The smell of your skin, the taste of your kiss, when you whisper in the dark. Your hair all around me, and you surround me. Shots every place in my heart. Oh, it feels like the first time. Every time I wanna spend this whole night in your eyes. I don't know how you do what you do. I'm so in love with you. It just keeps getting better. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you by my side, forever and ever. Every little thing that you do, baby, I'm amazed by every little thing that you do. I'm so in love with you. It just keeps getting better. I wanna spend the rest of my life with you by my side, forever and ever. Every little thing that you do, every little thing that you do, baby, I'm amazed by
Thank you.
Come on. So many people spend more of their life just dragging their feet. afraid to take a chance, worried about nothing but skin and belly. Know I'm bound to make mistakes and run far, but I will be the kind of man to hold up my head, to give back love, dust myself back off. I'm gonna burn up that highway, chase my dreams and tempt me, do things they say just can't be done. I'm fish on the table. They got gospel in the air. Now, Reverend Green, I see you, oh, you haven't got a prayer. You got a prayer in Memphis. I want to see everybody's hands in the air. Come on. Now here you play the piano every Friday at the Hollywood, and he brought me down to see them. She asked me if I would do a little number. I sang with all my mind. She said, "Tell me how you are Christian." How I said, "Lay my head tonight, walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet on the beat, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? Oh, walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet on the beat. Oh, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? Walking with my feet 10 feet on the beat, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? Oh, walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet on the beat. Oh, walking in Memphis. Do I really feel the way I feel? Oh, walking in Memphis. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Basketball Hall of Fame great and Executive Director of the LA Open, Mr. Clutch, Jerry West.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to be part of this tribute to a man I think I've admired for many years, and I know everyone here tonight to honor him feels the same. I'm also proud that the Northern Trust Open is partnering with the Ronald Reagan Foundation for the 2011 West Coast PGA Tour stop at Riviera Country Club in 2 weeks. Obviously, we hope every one of you come out to see these great players play. Like the Reagan Foundation, we have, at the LA Open, have made it a priority to develop relationships with the local community, including the military, as a way of showing how much we appreciate the sacrifices made every day on our behalf. A few days ago, I had the honor to be aboard the magnificent USS Ronald Reagan and join Captain Burke in doing a little putting on the deck. I played golf a lot of years, but certainly nothing compared to that. But as I looked at the faces of those dedicated servicemen, I thought of my brother David, who was killed in the Korean War when I was just 12 years old. He believed in his country and made the ultimate sacrifice for us. Ronald Reagan was the kind of commander-in-chief my brother would have been proud to serve. I had the feeling that on this ship that day, he was probably looking down at us and smiling and being very happy for me in particular. Thank you for having me, and have a wonderful night for this great tribute to this incredible man. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a message from Ronald Reagan's Vice President, the 41st President of the United States, George Herbert Walker Bush.
Good evening from Houston, where Barbara and I are sending our best wishes to friends and family of President Reagan as you gather at his library to celebrate its 100th birthday. We wish we could join you on this very special occasion, as we both have wonderful memories of our years in Washington with President Reagan, truly one of our great American presidents. Of the many memories I have as Vice President, one is the weekly lunches that President Reagan and I enjoyed together. He often scheduled around those times to make sure that he and I had time to focus on the many important matters facing the administration. President Reagan was one of the most kind and caring leaders I've had the privilege of working with and of knowing in public life. He was not only my boss, but also a valued friend, a good friend. President Reagan was a man of vision, integrity, and principle. His leadership and character will serve as examples for generations to come. Yet I know he would be humbled that so many are gathered in his honor at this occasion. He's certainly deserving of the many wonderful tributes he will receive during the centennial year. Have a wonderful evening. Barbara and I will be toasting you and our dear friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, a message from the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush.
Good evening and greetings from Texas. I'm honored to join you in celebrating the life of a fine American, an inspiration, and one of the greatest leaders our nation has ever known, President Ronald Reagan. Laura and I send our very best wishes to the Reagan family, particularly to a woman we admire a lot, Nancy Reagan. We thank the supporters of the Reagan Library for helping carry on the legacy of President Reagan. During this centennial celebration, we join you in giving thanks for the life of a great man whose defining qualities, optimism, modesty, and strength, are the qualities that should always guide America. May God bless the memory of Ronald Reagan, and may God continue to bless America.
Two presidents from the same family. Doesn't happen that often. But it does speak to a very interesting point with regard to this year's centennial celebration. And that is how enduring and multi-generational the Reagan legacy is. What President Reagan accomplished, getting America's economy thriving again, restoring our self-confidence, strengthening our military, and standing tall against foes of democracy, these aren't things that benefit just one generation. And that's evidenced by the fact that in this audience tonight are men and women who worked with Ronald Reagan in Hollywood, sitting next to people, including members of Congress, who weren't even born when Ronald Reagan was first elected. Yet we all share an appreciation for this amazing man. And we all are beneficiaries of what he did, as so many others all over the world will be for years to come. Talk about having an impact. Now, one of those who was born before Ronald Reagan was elected president is a man of immense talent and unequaled accomplishment as a pianist, a person who has been delighting audiences for years and who, despite his tremendous success, has, just like Ronald Reagan, remained humble and appreciative of his fans as he has been since the first day of his career. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Roger Williams.
you. It's good to be back at the library again. Now tell me, did you see that sunset tonight? Oh, just beautiful. Well, like you, I'm here tonight to honor two very special people. And of course, that is President and Mrs. Reagan. Ron and Nancy, theirs has to be one of the greatest love stories of all time. Two of my favorite songs, I think, characterize it better than any. One of them is Somewhere in Time. Remember that motion picture? Somewhere in Time is a story of a love affair that just keeps going on and on and on. Year after year, with no regards for time, it's just there. The other song happens to be the Reagans' favorite love song. They've had this ever since, I think George Gershwin wrote this, what was it, 1933. The song is called Our Love Is Here to Stay. Mrs. Reagan tells us every time she hears this song, she gets all choked up. Well, why shouldn't she be? Theirs was a love affair that went through the years like you couldn't believe. On and on. They went through hell and high water together. And still they stuck together. Tonight they're still together. And that song says it all. It's very clear. Our love is here to stay. Okay, you got the seats all filled up again. Here are two more favorites you may remember. President Reagan and I, believe it or not, started out at a radio station in Des Moines, Iowa. He was a sports announcer, and he called himself Dutch Reagan, and he was good. And I was And I had my radio show on another station 3 times a week. And we became fast friends over the years. I played for him so many times on the campaign trail, when he was governor, and when he was president. I got to tell you, I think this man was the most optimistic man that I ever met in my entire life. The only time I ever saw him down was right after he had attended that first summit meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev over in Reykjavik. Now, the Russians for years had gotten their way with a lot of table pounding and threats. But Reagan stood strong, and he gave them a taste of his temper. And when the Russians reneged on an earlier thing they said they would do, Reagan got up and he walked right out of the summit. But when he got back to the United States, the press they really let him have it. They said that he had ruined any chance that we had to compromise with the Russians on the Cold War. It was a pretty dark day for President Reagan. But what the press didn't know, and what we didn't know, was that the Russians had learned a mighty lesson on that first summit. And the lesson was this: don't mess with Ronald Reagan. Last time I played for the president, I was rehearsing the orchestra out in the White House lawn. And all of a sudden I felt this tap on my back. And I turned around, and here was the president with a big grin on his face. And he said, "Roger," he said, "I just heard that you know over 10,000 different songs." I said, "I don't know." I said, "I've never really counted them." He said, "Well, tell me this. Can you play the theme song from my first TV show, 20 Mule Team Borax, Death Valley Days?" I said, "You got me on that one." He said, "I'm only kidding." He said, "Play The Impossible Dream." He said, "I love the words to that song. And they say everything that I have tried so hard to do for this great country of ours." When he died, I looked up those words again. And to me, they describe this president better than anyone I think ever has. Let's see, I got him down here somewhere. And the words go like this: "And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and kind when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach those unreachable stars." Those are the words. Here is the vision.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
For over 8 years, a popular actor named Ronald Reagan hosted a TV program called GE Theater.
Well, that's part of living better electrically.
During that time, he also spent 10 weeks each year traveling the country, speaking to GE employees in more than 130 factories, sharing a message of optimism and a belief in the power of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit.
America's best days and democracy's best days lie ahead.
So now, GE is deeply honored to serve as presenting sponsor of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Celebration. Because long before he changed the world,
Tear down this wall.
or led a nation,
I, Ronald Reagan, do solemnly swear.
or governed a state,
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
he inspired our company.
For General Electric, here is Ronald Reagan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the General Electric Company and member of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation Board of Trustees, Jeffrey Immelt.
Great, thank you. Thank you. It's been GE's great honor this year to be the presenting sponsor for the Reagan Centennial. Between 1954 and 1962, President Reagan was the spokesman for GE. My predecessor at that time, Ralph Cordner, said that we needed a spokesman for the company that really could not just sell our products, but also be an inspiration for our employees. And President Reagan, during that time period, visited 140 GE plant sites in 36 states and gave town hall meetings to tens of thousands of employees, sometimes 10 or 12 or 14 speeches in a day. This was before the days when he had Air Force One and he didn't like to fly, so he would take the locomotives between the plant sites and do it day after day after day. And President Reagan was an inspiration to our company during a time period where our slogan was "Progress is our most important product." And we're introducing new innovations in jet engines and home appliances that he was a part of. And that legacy and that memory lives on. Later, as he became President of the United States in 1980, it's a time period that's somewhat reminiscent of today. High unemployment, high interest rates, unrest in the Middle East. And that day in 1980 was when I joined GE as a 24-year-old with $60,000 of student loans. I wanted to be led, and lead he did. Led the country during a time period of unprecedented prosperity. In my mind, President Reagan really represents the very best of American leadership. He's a tough-minded optimist. Tough-minded in the sense that only dedication and courage of conviction can ever drive positive change, and optimism in the sense that the future will be better than the past. And in the end, only optimists create jobs, and only optimists create the future. So GE has had the honor in the last year to really be associated once again with President Reagan and the great legacy he left with our company. So I want to say congratulations to the great foundation and tell you how honored we are to be a part of this. And thank you for your great support for this president. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a message from the 75th Attorney General of the United States and former counselor to the President, the Honorable Edwin Meese III.
It's a great privilege for me to participate in this centennial celebration of Ronald Reagan's life. It was a great honor to work for him, to serve him both in California and in the United States government. He was a great leader, a great friend, and a person that I admired and was probably one of the most influential people in my life. I also appreciated very much how Nancy Reagan was such a devoted and helpful wife to him, and it's such an important part of his life, and therefore a great contribution she has made to our nation as well, and particularly the contribution she has made since that time to the Reagan Library and the Reagan Foundation, which will continue to bring his legacy to the attention of many generations to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, a message from the former press secretary to both Presidents Reagan and George H.W. Bush, the Honorable Marlin Fitzwater.
Well, it's a great honor to be a part of the celebration of Ronald Reagan's life and certainly his birth. It's so rich for all of us who worked for him and with him to think about how he influenced us and how his thoughts and his direction influenced the country. America has prospered in so many ways as a result of his influence. We've grown, we've recognized the brilliance of his thinking and the wisdom of his direction and guidance. And on a personal basis, he was an inspiration to all of us. I mean, I find myself talking all the time about what Ronald Reagan did on such and such a day or a place or in a summit meeting or a joke he talked to Gorbachev about. And it's just a great honor for me to be with you today.
No one had more strongly or sincerely held beliefs than Ronald Reagan. He knew what he was for and he knew what he was against and why. But he always had respect for his audience and respect for those who didn't agree with him. Simply put, he was a gentleman. With us today is another true gentleman. That's why they call me Mr. Segway. The youngest and yet one of the most impressive members of Congress. His district happens to include Eureka College, and who was recently appointed to be a member of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Representative from the 18th Congressional District of Illinois, the Honorable Aaron Schock.
Well, thank you, Fred. As the first member of Congress to have been born while Ronald Reagan was president, I'm honored to be included in these festivities. Now, people may be wondering why the youngest congressman is so inspired by our nation's oldest president. Well, the answer is the same reason why President Reagan rocked among the youth while he was president. In fact, he led in polls in the 1980s in the 18 to 25 age category. Young people like me, whose first impression of government was seeing our president on television, could tell that this man spoke from the heart with conviction and an infectious optimism. His eyes spoke the truth and revealed a genuine and passionate commitment that we continue to stand tall and live free. He inspired us to dream big dreams, and in his words, to fly as high and as far as our own energies and abilities will take us. Gone were the days of self-imposed limits on our imagination, goals, and accomplishments to benefit all mankind. Our president in the 1980s demonstrated continued American exceptionalism by his infectious example. In a historic speech to the students of Moscow University in 1987, President Reagan resonated with Soviet college students like no one they had ever heard before, and inspired them to imagine life without communism. Soviet control began unraveling literally the moment he finished that historic speech. A few years ago, I was awed watching some of those students on a television program express how dramatically affected they were by that deep and irresistibly inspirational speech. By example, President Reagan taught an enduring truth when he constantly challenged conventional wisdom, calling it the convenient wisdom for the entrenched few. Time and again, he confounded elitist experts with success after success. He led America to believe in ourselves again and look to the future with confidence. President Reagan rescued America from a rapid economic decline that was trending toward third world conditions of unemployment, record inflation rates, and rapid inflation. He turned the tide in the world against statism and toward freedom. And people in my generation have lived their lives on a foundation of freedom and economic opportunity that would not have existed if not for Ronald Reagan. When I was running for state representative a few years ago, I watched a broadcast of an old Reagan interview when he explained how he developed his positions on new issues as they arose while he was president. He said, If taking this action increased individual freedom, then I'm for it. And if it decreases individual freedom, then I'm against it. I thought to myself then there that I could have no better maxim to guide my views on public policy. Now, it has been said that one sure sign of a truly great leader is that they are chosen and succeeded by their chosen person. Well, not only was President Reagan succeeded by his vice president, but the youth who were so compelled by him during our formative years were motivated by him to take up the cause and now occupy the leadership of the House of Representatives, generational successors of his inspired national leadership. President Reagan also never forgot where he came from. In 1932, he graduated from Eureka College in my congressional district and returned to his alma mater 12 different times, including his landmark 1982 speech on the START Treaty, which is one of the seminal speeches of his first term. Ronald Reagan once said of his alma mater, Eureka College, that everything good in my life began here. While returning 12 times, Ronald Reagan is a man who never forgot where he came from. And one member of this Centennial Committee who can attest in his own way is superstar Nick Jonas. He and his brothers have something to say.
Hey, I'm Nick. I'm Joe. And I'm Kevin, and we're the Jonas Brothers. Unfortunately, we can't be at the Reagan Library this weekend to be a part of this historic and exciting celebration of President Reagan's 100th birthday. As young Americans, we'd like to say that Ronald Reagan is a true role model for our generation. He achieved and accomplished great things in so many areas of his life. We know Ronald Reagan inspired freedom and changed the world. As a result of his leadership, millions of people now experience that freedom every day.
As young Americans, we look to the future, but also look for inspiration from role models from earlier generations. President Reagan was among America's greatest presidents. His leadership resulted in freedom not only around the world, but restored pride in our country here at home. We want to join all of you in wishing a happy 100th birthday to President Reagan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the star of Camp Rock 2, Hannah Montana and fame, actress and singer Ana Maria Perez de Tagle.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. You got my name right. I have a very long name. Good evening, everyone. I'm very honored to be invited to sing for all of you tonight on the occasion of the centennial birthday celebration of the great communicator, President Ronald Reagan. I wasn't born during his term yet, but I've learned so much about him and his accomplishment through the National Youth Leadership Committee, of which I am a member of. My first number is from the Broadway musical, Les Miserables. I dreamed a dream in time gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God Thank you. Now here's one of my favorites from another Broadway musical, Jekyll and Hyde.
I peer through windows, watch life go by, dream of tomorrow, and wonder why the past is holding me, keeping life at bay. I wander lost in yesterday, wanting to fly, but scared to try. But if someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. My heart would take wing and I'd feel so alive if someone like you found me. So many secrets I belong to share. All I have needed is someone there to help me see a world I've never seen before. I love to open every door to set me free, so I can soar. If someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. There'd be a new way to live, a new life to love. If someone like you found me, oh, if someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. My heart would take wing and I feel so alive if someone like you loved me. Loved me. Loved
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome two members of the National Youth Leadership Committee of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Celebration, Washington Redskins wide receiver Terrence Austin and Miss USA 2010, Rima Fakih.
I cannot tell you what it means for me to be a part of this tonight. As a history major at UCLA, I had the opportunity to study not only American history, but historical events throughout the world. I was impressed by America's 40th president and deeply admired President Reagan's stewardship of work from our economy as he lowered taxes and reduced inflation at a critical time in our history. It was his determination in standing tall against communism that not only brought down the Berlin Wall, but led to America's victory in Cold War, allowing millions around the world to live in freedom. And as a Redskin, I feel a special attachment to President Reagan. I know that the president is not supposed to have a favorite team, but I think there's pretty good evidence that he had a warm spot in his heart for the Skins. After all, how many people, let alone the president, would interrupt their day to come out to the airport and welcome back the team after winning the Super Bowl? Well, President Reagan and Nancy did on a cold day in January in 1983 at Dulles Airport after we won Super Bowl 17. He also had the team at the White House a few years later after winning Super Bowl 22. I still remember seeing coverage of the perfect pass he threw to Ricky Sanders. No doubt about it, the Gipper was in charge that day. Wonderful memories of a wonderful man. Rima?
Thank you. Thing 1, 2. Testing. Last May, when I was crowned Miss USA, it was the proudest moment of my life. But being here now, celebrating the 100th birthday of former President Ronald Reagan, matches the pride and honor I felt that night. The fact that I am the first Muslim and the first immigrant to be crowned Miss USA speaks volumes to the fact that anything is possible in this country. I was a child born in war-torn Lebanon. I have vivid memories of hiding in shelters from the shelling. While hiding and hoping just to stay alive, I could never, never have imagined being here today as an American citizen, honoring a man that I consider to be one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century. Thank you. This is truly a highlight of my year as Miss USA. You simply cannot be Lebanese and not know and respect President Ronald Reagan. In fact, my uncle, who actually immigrated to California, admired the president so much that he named his youngest son after him. So family gatherings are always very interesting. My cousins come, and here we have Kahtan, Raif, Mohammed, Hussein, Ali, and then we have Ronnie. Everyone always wonders if he's adopted, but. As an economics major at the University of Michigan, I studied President Reagan's policies. He was a man who crafted history. He knew what he wanted to accomplish, and he set out to do it. He brought his supporters and his detractors on a great journey that led to restoring America's economic vitality and global strength. I can think of no better place to be and no better person to recognize in celebrating leadership. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Executive Director of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Celebration, Stuart McLaurin.
What a terrific evening we're having here tonight. And there are many rewarding aspects of serving with a great team of colleagues to plan this year of centennial events. One has been the breadth and scope of the partnerships across a range of fields to remember President Reagan and continue his legacy. Another is the opportunity to engage young Americans on what President Reagan means to them. Tonight, you have been hearing the voices of the next generation of Americans. These young people on the Leadership Committee did not know President Reagan as a living president, but his legacy lives in them and in their futures. On the education front, we just concluded a successful conference with the University of Southern California, and next week we will partner with the University of Virginia, and later this year with Notre Dame and the United States Naval Academy. Tomorrow, at National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., Elizabeth Dole will lead a special remembrance of President Reagan. And President Reagan's home church, Bel Air Presbyterian, will have a special tribute tomorrow, as will many other churches across the country. From the sporting world, we are pleased to be working with NASCAR for tributes at Daytona, Phoenix, and Fontana this spring, and with several Major League Baseball teams to honor the president this baseball season, and with the PGA Tour, as Jerry West mentioned. And since it just so happens that President Reagan's birthday is on Super Bowl Sunday, tomorrow's pregame show in Cowboys Stadium in Dallas will include a special video tribute on that 160-foot by 80-foot tall screen, which right now you will be the first in the world to see.
Joining us for the toss of the coin, the President of the United States, Mr. Ronald Reagan.
It's a distinct pleasure and a privilege for me to be a participant, although I wish I could be a participant closer at hand.
Today, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the birth of our nation's 40th president and a legendary fan of the game, Ronald Reagan.
Mr. President, will you please toss the coin?
It is tails.
Thank you for joining us today.
Athletics were a big part of Ronald Dutch Reagan's life. Even though he grew up during the Great Depression and had to wash dishes to pay his way through college, he lettered in football and was captain of the swim team. Reagan's love of sports led him to his first job.
At 22, I'd achieved my dream. I was a sports announcer.
Reagan eventually left the Midwest for Hollywood, and in his pursuit of the American dream, became a film and TV star, a spokesperson, and a speechmaker.
You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
Ronald Reagan always said America's best days lie ahead. Personally, his confidence in the future was complete the day he met Nancy Davis.
If ever God gave me evidence that he had a plan for me, it was the night he brought Nancy into my life.
President Reagan was called the Great Communicator. He believed in the promise and purpose of America, and he made the nation believe.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew is pulling us into the future, and we'll continue to follow them. These are the boys of Puente Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. Letter came from Peter Sweeney. He's in the 2nd grade, and he said, I hope you get well quick, or you might have to make a speech in your pajamas.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
The National Football League salutes this great American, who played the game with honor and courage, and played to win, not just for America, but for free people everywhere. Happy 100th birthday, Mr. President.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 47th Governor of the state of Texas, the Honorable Rick Perry.
Howdy. What a man. You know, what a thrill and an honor it is to be a part of this great celebration of his life and his legacy. You know, he may have been born in Illinois, but Ronald Reagan was truly a son of the American West. He was personifying that Western mindset. You know, he had that pioneer spirit, that can-do attitude, that strength of character. He truly loved America. And he reminded us that there's no other place like it anywhere in the world. You know, for us frustrated conservatives all across this great land, Ronald Reagan's ascendance was a series of eureka moments as our gut-level beliefs found expressions in his words. You know, he seemed to know us better than we knew ourselves, and he called us to believe in our potential as individuals and as a nation. Throughout his career, he was an actor, he was a governor, and the president. Ronald Wilson Reagan displayed a depth of character, a sense of humor, a basic decency that disarmed even his political foes. Not only could he disagree without being disagreeable, he could leave even his most hardened opponents smiling. You know, as a governor, I'm inspired by Ronald Reagan's success in that office and rely upon his time-tested conservative principles in leading our country. That's what Ronald Reagan was all about. He understood the essential concepts that when government expands, liberty contracts. So he understood that America's people made her great, not her government. As we reflect on this legacy, let us continue his work, share his wisdom, and embrace his unshakable optimism. You know, in dark times, America is still that shining city on a hill and a beacon of freedom for all. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Chairman of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Commission, the Honorable Frederick J. Ryan, Jr.
Thank you. I recognize one of those guys up there. Well, on behalf of Nancy Reagan and the Board of Trustees, thank you for being part of this historic event and for your support of the Reagan Presidential Foundation. Now, I know that many of you endured significant hardship in terms of flight delays and travel logistics to get here. I'm no expert on global warming, but we never had weather like this when Ronald Reagan was president. Speaking of presidents, the current occupant of the Oval Office appears to have realized he could learn a thing or two from Ronald Reagan. First, he let it be known he was reading the Reagan biography on his trip to Hawaii. Then he borrowed a few phrases from Ronald Reagan in the State of the Union address. Then a few weeks later, he toured a GE plant. Well, maybe that explains why his popularity numbers are suddenly increasing. With that kind of success, we may soon see him wearing a cowboy hat, chopping wood, eating jelly beans, and maybe snoozing in cabinet meetings. Seriously, allow me to take just a moment to say a word about a person who means so much to all of us here tonight, Ronald Reagan's First Lady and our First Lady, Nancy Reagan. While she could not be here in person, she is very excited about this incredible lineup of performers and speakers. She's watching us on television right now and is very grateful to them and to all of you for making this event possible. We all know that if he were here today, President Reagan would say he could not have achieved all that he did, could not have inspired freedom, could not have changed the world without the love, devotion, and inspiration he received from his First Lady, Nancy Reagan. Tomorrow, Nancy Reagan will be here to lead the special centennial tribute to her husband. The eyes of the world will be on the Reagan Presidential Library as we launch the year-long series of events that will take place around the world to commemorate the 100th birthday of Ronald Reagan. President Reagan's presence is certainly missed, but his spirit lives on through the foundation he established, which bears his name and now continues his legacy. We know that President Reagan would never think of that legacy in personal terms. With Ronald Reagan, it was not about him. It was about the American dream being available to everyone, and our country remaining the beacon of hope and freedom for the entire world. And I think, as the Gipper, he would probably be tickled by the fact that his 100th birthday just happens to fall on Super Bowl Sunday. And President Reagan certainly would enjoy the show we're seeing tonight. Nobody enjoyed a good show more than Ronald Reagan. And there was no band that he liked better than the one we are about to hear. In addition to being America's band, they have always been Ronald Reagan's band. In fact, here's what he had to say about them.
I know their music speaks for itself, but I just wanted, on behalf of all of you I know, to thank the Beach Boys for coming here on this very special occasion. And if you didn't believe that our whole family have been fans of yours for a long time, just look at Nancy.
And now, celebrating more than 50 years of American music around the world, ladies and gentlemen, the Beach Boys.
Police happening with you. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening with you. Gotta keep those love good vibrations happening.
Thank you so much. I'd like to welcome to the stage our good friend. You know him from America's Favorite Uncle, Jesse, on Full House. More recently on Glee, Mr. John Stamos.
If you know the words, please sing this with us. It's called Kokomo!
Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take it to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Cuba, Montego, baby, why don't we go off the Florida King? There's a place called Coco, that's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your hand. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, why don't we go? Get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Down in Kokomo, Montego, and Montreal State. We'll put out to sea, and we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll be fine, a little bit of gravity. Afternoon delight, cocktails and moonlight, that dreamy look in your eye, give me a tropical contact. Way down in Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you to Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego, baby, wanna take you to Kokomo. Get me fast, and we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Well, since you put me down, I've been out to it in my head. I commit late at night, and in the morning I just lay in bed. But Rodney, you look so fine, look so fine. Take my time for you to help me get around my heart. Come on, thank you. Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda, don't you? Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda. 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 Help me, Rhonda, get her out of my heart. She was gonna be my woman and I was gonna be her man. But she let another guy come between us and it shattered our plans. Now Rodney, you cry. Well, I'd be giving lots of reasons why. For you to help me, Rhonda, help me get her out of my heart. Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda, don't you? Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhonda. 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 Help me, Rhonda, help me, Rhon Thank you.
Good vibrations and fun, fun, fun. That's
very
what
much,
the
sir.
Reagans were all about, and are all about, and will always be about.
She got her daddy's car and she cruised to the hamburger stand. See, she forgot all about the library.
hear it for the legendary Beach Boys!
Stainless isn't chopped liver, come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Representative from the 26th Congressional District of the State of California, the Honorable David Dreyer.
It's always great having those guys as my warm-up act. In fact, I have to tell you that I have never, ever seen George Shultz, Ed Meese, and Joe Albritton rock out the way I just did from the front row here. What a Reagan-esque evening. With all due respect to all the other presidential libraries, it's difficult to imagine any of them having an event quite like this. It was a great honor to be asked to share some thoughts about one of the greatest men I've ever known. And no, I'm not talking about Mike Love. Like Ronald Reagan, I'm not a native Californian. We both came from America's heartland. I came here at a young age and never left. President Reagan said that California was not just a place, but a way of life. He was right. California quickly became my home, and thanks to his encouragement and example, the place where I became committed to pursuing public service. In fact, Ronald Reagan is why I have the privilege of standing before you tonight as a member of the United States Congress. In 1980, I was elected as part of the Reagan class. From the moment we took the oath of office, we began to implement the president's agenda, wholeheartedly committed to his fundamental belief in the unlimited potential of the American people, his steadfast opposition to tyranny, and his inspiring vision of a strong America with renewed pride and spirit. Now we know that he went on to not only revitalize our faith in American exceptionalism and American universalism, but to change the course of world history. What a privilege it was to be part of the Reagan Revolution. Actually, I should say that thanks to my 87 new congressional colleagues, many of whom were here last weekend, what a privilege it is to be part of the Reagan Revolution, and what a privilege to be part of the tribute that marks the 100th anniversary of his birth.
Ladies and gentlemen, best-selling author, prize-winning columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and former presidential speechwriter, Peggy Noonan.
Hello, everybody. May I say part of the pleasure of tonight has been seeing so many of the great ones of the Reagan era here. George Shultz, Ed Meese, Bud McFarlane, many others. I gotta tell you, I was in the back during the Beach Boys. You were rocking out. Ed Meese, you got some moves. To be asked to be a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan was like being asked to write a nice little song for Mozart. It was like being asked to cook for Julia Child. He was the master. Here at the Reagan Library, as you know, you'll see all he'd written over the years, the radio scripts and columns and speeches. He first arrived on the national scene, of course, through a speech. Old Reagan hands call it the speech, although its formal name is A Time for Choosing, and when you go over to the museum tomorrow or the next day, you'll be able to both see it in its original form and hear it. President Reagan, then Citizen Reagan, gave that speech in 1964, and it is truly fascinating that in it he presaged everything that would come 17 years later in his presidency, all the issues, cut taxes, resist the Soviet Union, stand up, be strong, get government smaller. All of those things were in the speech that began his political career. He was a person of considerable intellectual consistency. At our first meeting in 1984, it was obvious to me that the personal Ronald Reagan was as impressive and really extraordinary as the public one. He was gracious, courteous, warm, and welcoming. He was a happy man, and he spread happiness. You could always tell he was coming down the hall in the White House because you would hear the sound of laughter. When you heard laughter in the halls, you'd kind of pop your head out and listen, because it meant Ronald Reagan and his staff were about to turn the corner. It was a nice thing to see your boss heralded in that way. I'll never forget how he edited one of my first speeches. It was supposed to be 2 pages long, and it was supposed to laud the Teacher of the Year. But I was new at the White House, and I got a little carried away, and I wrote a 20-page speech. It was a defense of the West and an indictment of the Soviet Union. The president got the speech. He knew what was going on. He edited out about 80% of it, putting, as Maury Mossing knows, just drawing his lines through your sentences and joining this graph with that graph. But he really rewrote the speech. He just got rid of 80%, rewrote the following 20%. But I was new, and he didn't want to dishearten me or discourage me. So he wrote a little note on the top saying he read the speech and it was just wonderful. And he really wished he could have said all these words, but there was just not enough time. But it was really very good. Well, I was thrilled. I got it, and I proudly walked the speech, the edited speech, into my boss, Ben Elliott, and I said, "Hey, Ben, he liked it. He really liked it." And Ben looked at the edits and looked at the rewriting, and he laughed. He said, "In the nicest possible way, you just got schooled by Ronald Reagan." And he was right, but Ben said something very important. He said, pay attention to everything he took out, and then pay twice as much attention to everything he put in. That way you'll learn. So I did what he said, and it was the beginning of my education. Ronald Reagan understood the power and importance of words. They really mattered to him. He had been a reader, a great reader, all of his life. As a young man, as all of you know, he wrote short stories and essays and poems. They're all over in the museum, too. He knew people hungered in our time for the truth, and he knew they appreciated and hungered for clarity. And so, in Margaret Thatcher's words, he marshaled the English language and sent it out to fight for us. Some of today's political leaders, it is true, seek to capture his voice a little bit in order to inherit his mantle. They want to sound like him. They should not. His voice was uniquely his and belonged only to him. It was authentic because it came from an authentic man, a man of great and high character and serious views, who had earned his political philosophy, who had struggled through to it, who had started out here and struggled through to be here. He had thought it through, and he stood by it even when it wasn't so popular. He used to say, "They call me the great communicator, but I'm not. I just communicate great things." Those who want to rise as high as he did and assume some responsibility for our country would be better off following the impulse of his soul, which became the lesson of his life. Tell the truth. Tell it with clarity. Tell it even against the odds. Send your words out there to fight for us. Make our country better. It was the honor of our lives to have worked with Ronald Reagan, and I thank you for the further honor of being part of this tribute to him this evening. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the United States Military Academy at West Point, a member of the National Youth Leadership Committee of the Ronald Reagan Centennial Celebration, Cadet Colin Mansfield. And from the Nimitz-class nuclear-powered supercarrier and first ship ever named for a then-living former President of the United States, the USS Ronald Reagan, two members of the National Youth Leadership Committee, Petty Officer Oliver Cole and Legal Woman Sharon Swallow.
At West Point, our motto is duty, honor, country. Those principles guided everything Ronald Reagan did. His leadership made those words come alive. He's a shining example for my generation of what is possible when one acts with the confidence that can come from strong faith. Ronald Reagan was a man of faith. He talked and wrote about it often. In fact, in his diary, in the first entry after the assassination attempt in 1981, he wrote, "Whatever happens now, I owe my life to God and will try to serve him in every way I can." He was never reluctant to say that he prayed every day for guidance and wisdom. That's one reason I'm especially proud to serve on the Youth Leadership Committee and to be able to share his legacy with my peers.
It is always a source of pride to wear the uniform of our country, but doing so on board this ship is a true honor. To say I serve on the USS Ronald Reagan is a privilege, and it is a responsibility. This ship bears the name of a man who will forever be known as the president who rebuilt America's history, not just to wage war, but to defend freedom and preserve peace, just as he did during his 8 years in the White House. We are currently deployed, and boy, do we wish he could see this ship. Who knows, maybe he's looking down and giving us that famous salute and wink.
Our ship gleams from stem to stern every day. And everywhere we go, we take with us a special feeling of pride to be a part of a living and lasting tribute to a commander-in-chief who believes so deeply in what America stands for and who was always there for us. That's why we're so pleased to have this partnership with the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation. It's one way we can stay connected to him and further his legacy around the world. Incidentally, we are especially proud that tomorrow, 4 F-18s right from our flight deck will fly over the Reagan Library as a special tribute to our namesake. And on the ground, the birthday cake many of you will enjoy was baked in part by a sailor from our ship. And now it is my privilege to present a highly decorated officer who keeps this great ship running in top shape and under whom we are all proud and lucky to serve. The commanding officer of the USS Ronald Reagan, Captain Tom W. Burke.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Tom Burke, commanding officer of USS Ronald Reagan. We are currently just off the coast conducting operations and unable to directly participate in Ronald Reagan's centennial celebration. We strive to live up to our namesake's reputation every day and motto of peace through strength. As we prepare to deploy in just the next few days, we will continue to pursue stability and peace for this nation. We wish you all a great celebration. Please keep the men and women of our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
You know, I'm betting that of all the tributes that Ronald Reagan received, the one that he would be the proudest of would be that ship and those young people wearing his name on their uniform as they risk their lives for freedom around the world. All right, folks, we're in for a real treat now. Sneak preview, if you will. As you know, the Reagan Museum has just completed a major renovation. It has been a painstaking, long, thorough process, but of course, a labor of love. One of the most exciting and informative aspects of this is a brand new state-of-the-art film about the life of Ronald Reagan, which will be shown to visitors in the museum's Legacy Theater. Earlier today, many of you had a chance to preview this video as you toured the museum. Before we dim the lights, however, let me just say again, on behalf of the trustees of Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation, thank you for being a part of this special evening, which I hope you will agree is an exciting part of a very deserved series of tributes and celebrations to the 100th birthday of the man whose life touched us all. Thank you.
Don't let anyone tell you that America's best days are behind her, that the American spirit has been vanquished. We've seen it triumph too often in our lives to stop believing in it now. Let history say of us, these were golden years when the American Revolution was reborn, when freedom gained new life and America reached for her best. And as we continue our journey, we think of those who traveled before us. These are the boys of Puente Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped end a war. And we see and hear again the echoes of our past. The song, and the song echoes out forever and fills the unknowing air. It is the American sound. It is hopeful, big-hearted, idealistic,
And liftoff.
daring, decent, and fair.
The first woman ever nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States.
That's our heritage. That's our song. We sing it still. For all our problems, our differences, we are together as of old. We raise our voices to the God who is the author of this most tender music. And may he continue to hold us close as we fill the world with our sound in unity, affection, and love.
Everybody's looking forward to just being able to help, and that's what we're here to do.
One people, under God.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Dedicated to the dream of freedom that he has placed in the human heart.
Waving their new passports, they rushed forward, streaming across the border.
Happy.
Called upon now to pass that dream of freedom on to a waiting and a hopeful world.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
Mr. Reagan will speak in his first public appearance since the shooting.
Thank you very much.
I have a letter with me. Letter came from Peter Sweeney. He's in the 2nd grade in the Riverside School in Rockville Center. And he said, I hope you get well quick, or you might have to make a speech in your pajamas.
Whatever else history may say about me when I'm gone, I hope it will record that I appealed to your best hopes, not your worst fears, to your confidence rather than your doubts.
In this springtime of hope, some lights seem eternal. America's is. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Los Robles Master Chorale. Ladies and gentlemen, the finale of our program is a truly great American who needs no introduction. The Grammy Award winner and multi-platinum entertainer, Lee Greenwood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa. If tomorrow all the things were gone, worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the man who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much on behalf of the Ronald Reagan Foundation and Centennial Celebration. Thank you all for coming, and a very good night.